Welcome everybody to our last talk of the day for PasswordsCon, but certainly not the least. Just by way of reminder, if you are first time attending a talk with us today, just a reminder on cell phone usage. Please don't take any photos of the attendees around you without their consent. Filipi has said you can take pictures of him and or his slides, so you're welcome to do that. There's no need to take any video because it's being streamed and recorded, so no need to do that. And please put your phones on silent so that it doesn't interfere with anybody else. Again, a quick thank to our sponsors, our diamond sponsors, Prisma Cloud and Vanta, and our gold sponsors, Dropzone AI and Project Circuit Breaker. And then all the other sponsors and volunteers as well that made this conference possible for us, including yourselves for being here, that make B-Sides enjoyable for everybody to learn and to have fun. So we're going to welcome Filipi from Brazil. So I will try and say, boa tarde, Filipi.
Yeah, that's
Right,
cool.
good. Obrigado. Right, so we're going to hand over to Filipi, who's going to do machine identity and attack path, the danger of misconfigurations. And then afterwards there'll be some Q&A as well. So let's hand over to Filipi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me good, right? That's cool. Your Portuguese is very cool. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, mainly in the last talk. Are you tired? I'm tired. Come on, sir. Who's tired here? Yeah, everyone is tired. Okay, thank you for being here, by the way. And yeah, so let's talk about our main topic. Actually, our conversation will be divided in two parts. The first part is more bullshit part. The theoric part is kind of bullshit, I know that, but that's necessary. But the second part is more sexy, or let's say the more technical part. So please stay until the end, because in the middle, I share more the funny things and more sexy party. So by the way, who here work with the, AWS? Just to, okay. Who works with Azure? Who works with Google? Yeah, or OCI? Who work with nothing? Because someone worth nothing, okay? Cool. So basically, I'm a head of Identity Threat Labs and Global Product Advocate at Segura. And I'm responsible for doing investigations about the threats, understand how the threat works, and mainly how the attackers are, the attackers are creating new techniques and explore identities, actually, and machine identities. This is a kind of type of name by Gartner, let's say, fucking Gartner. I can say fucking Gartner. It's not polite, right? Sorry, guys. This is the community event, okay? Anyway, so I'm part of the Red Team Village, director of the team, responsible for sponsors. And I'm organizer of B-Sides Porto in Portugal. By the way, I'm living in Portugal right now. Actually, 50% of my time I live in Portugal, and another 50% I live in out of Dallas, here in US. So, but I'm one of the organizers at B-Sides Porto, so I know how this event works. So I'm founder of this community called the Red Team Community. This community is focused on red team in Brazil, basically. I'm Brazilian, as he said, and but I'm living in Portugal. We talk Portuguese. And I'm a part of the Raízes Cybers. Basically, Raízes or races, or it's a kind of root. It means root. Basically, the idea is to spread the message and to helping people to get inside of the, cybersecurity stuff. It's created for the Spanish people and Portuguese people as well, to helping, to growing and to get inside of the cybersecurity. That's, if you see, I just received a salary for the first company here, and the other is no profit initiative and the community events, let's say. Okay, cool. By the way, first questions, just who was last year here? Anyone who last year watching my talk here? Cool, this would be, you were here last year? Yeah? Okay, I will bring some things to you, and you watching my talk at AWSPX, right, at Florida. Okay, cool. So first of all, my company, it's called Segura. It means secure in Portuguese language. We're responsible for providing solutions for identity and mainly PAN solution. When I mean PAN, is privileged access management, just to let you know. So it's a Brazilian company, but we have an office here in US, and we are growing. Okay, let's talk about our main topic. So what is machine identity? Just to put in every people on the same page. Basically, machine identity refers this unique identity because we are using to use on the user and password, right? But nowadays we need to have the, let's say, not more password. So probably you heard about passwordless technology, right? And sometimes when you have two different applications in the cloud, for example, or even on-premise, you don't need to have the user password. You can use you should use in service account, right? It's more best practice to integrate those type of things. And we talk about this is about machine identity or no human identity, right? Because you have a permission above those identities, and you need to set those permissions between those different applications to talk between applications 1 and application 2, right? You don't need to have the user like Filipi user or password, because if I leave the company, the application is going down, right? Because it should be based on the service account. That's cool. So basically, machine identity refers to that, okay? So about secrets, tokens, or mainly now we are involved with the Docker containers, you know, like the Kubernetes and many things about that. So we talk about this machine identity. When you talk about the human identity, we are talking about the user and based on user, password, and many things you know about that, okay? So basically our vision about machine identity is just to understand everything is about machine identity, how you manage the governance, privilege accounts, secrets, cloud entitlements. It's quite new, another fucking word of Gartner, anyways, okay? And access management certification lifetime, identity posture manager of the famous ITDR, another fucking word. I'm not good in this, to be polite. Anyway, identity threat detection response is ITDR. And you have many others, you know, security posture, but I know that's necessary for organizations, to manage cloud providers, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the vision about machine identity, how you can manage this. First is when you look into the kind of solutions, so we are, like, let's say, I'm supposing that you work with you in your company, you are an analyst or you are like a principal, you are a staff, whatever the position. When you need to look into this kind of solution, you need to figure what is the best solution that you should be using for discovering for these identities. Let's say the machine identity, the server, containers, pipeline, many cloud workloads. When you need to look into the governance, let's say the best practice to enforce the policy or even have a kind of control or the ownership. The other one is to automate it, again, to thinking about just-in-time access, because I published it, I think, 1 week ago, the big attack that happened in financial sector in Brazil. I don't know if you have opportunity to read, but you can came to my social medias after this talk. You can see this complete article that I investigate. And this attack is happened because the company that suffered this attack didn't have the just-in-time access enabled, because the attack had happened during the night, started at 4 a.m. in the morning. So, you know, the attacker, they didn't many fraudulent transactions during the morning. So starting 4 p.m., actually start before like 2 or 3 p.m. So like if the company had the just-in-time access to block at this access or these transactions during the night or in the morning, let's say, the company could block at this attack. So when you think about the identity access management, you need to look into this type of things, okay? And to be secure, like looking or working with this kind of concept called the least privilege, okay? Just to understand what is machine identity. Okay, so talking about cloud, so if you think about offensive perspective in the past, when you talk about on-premise, we have the high-value target. So we look into the Active Directory, and the Active Directory had the administrator guys, okay? So how do you work in the cloud? Or how do you manage those type of things? So high-value targets comes to the military, as the terminology here from the US. So to refers to the person or the resource that the enemy commander requires to complete the mission, okay? So basically, this is the talk about military perspective. However, if you think about, for example, the organization, so you need to think, who is the high-value target in my organization? So think who could be the high-value target in your company? So maybe it's a C-level, maybe could be the CFO, because the guy responsible for pay the salary. So usually we think that, okay, who could be the most impacted position in my company if the attacker gained the access in this identity, or if the guys should have a kind of, let's say, the permissions attached to this guy. So what is the impact? So think about that. So maybe we think, okay, the high-value target can be the C-level, board member, or can be the senior executive management. Sometimes we think that this guy is the high-value target. However, we have here people with elevated privilege. So now I have another point about that case that I share with you about the Brazilian financial attack. The guy responsible for helping the criminals, the facilitator, he was a developer, junior developer. Who is developer here in this room? Just to, Jesus. Okay, sorry for that, but it's not your guilt. That's the point here. The point is about VS Code. Let me explain. To install VS Code requires what? Administrator access. So it's not, the guilt is about the VS Code, because I'm kidding. Like the many different applications that you need to install in your machine requires the administrator access. And that's the key here, because the security level should look into that and the identity perspective. How I can give you the access to this machine if I'm supposed that I'm a developer and I need to use in VS Code, I need to use in many different stacks to, doing programming things. And the key is how I can go deeply and to giving the access for the a specific application and a certain granularity is a challenge here, and that's the key. So let's wait in here. Okay, Filipi, you are explaining us that maybe a junior guy can be a high-value target. The answer is yes. So that guy that was the facilitator in the financial attack was a junior guy, but they had a privilege in the environment just because of certain applications. So if they had a just-in-time access, perspective access, or other type of protection, they could block it or, like protecting the environment. So that's important thing to understand here. So many teams involved with the sensitive, information or even a stack project can be the high-value target. So that's important to understand here because I will show you some misconfiguration. Actually, I'm not bringing to you the 0 day. I'm bringing you the fucking misconfiguration. Yeah, that's true. Okay, another important thing is attack vector. It's a simple, like the method used by these cyber attacks. Like they can use in different methodology, and it's just important to clarify the difference between attack vector and attack surface. Attack surface is your attack guy, is many possibilities in this fucking room here. I cannot using more fucking, I'm using a lot of fucking, that's okay, sorry for that. In the end of the day, we were asking, what are you learning this talk about fucking? Sorry, but anyway. So if you see, we have a different, windows here. We have 2 rooms here. So when you talk about attack surfaces, the many surfaces that attack can go inside of the environment. So that's the attack surface. Attack vector is the way that attack is using to go inside of this door, and that door. You know what I mean? So that's the difference about attack vector. Super common malware, malicious software, ransomware, that's cryptography your environment and request a payment. Phishing as a kind of technique that you can use as a method to go inside, and you can have the vector inside. But there are human errors like weak credentials, poor encryptions, and misconfiguration. This is our main takes here. And of course, it's when you allowing someone to access the sensitive information is another type of attack vector, okay? Cool. Another is attack path. Our main topic here basically is the chain, is the visualization of the events and how they occur this attack or how the attacker can explore the environment, okay? This picture is so nice. So my team recreated this image, but basically this image it came to the OWASP risk. It's not exactly in graph way, as you can see in this picture. However, it's one idea how this chain works. So you see here the threat agent, so the malicious guy, the vector. I explained to you what is the attack vector. In this case, misconfiguration, okay? And security weakness when they explore the weakness in some application. So let's suppose that you add some wrong configurations or you perform these misconfigurations in your environment. You are bringing to your environment this security weakness. Even if you don't know it's a weakness because you applied the wrong permissions to the wrong user. So it's a weakness. So when you get inside, you can, of course, control the security sensors in the environment. And after that, you can bring the impact of the technical or even business impact, okay? So you can imagine this example of Brazilian that I bring you. By the way, this is a very nice topic to bring into the next year, the talk, okay? Talk about this attack in Brazil. But basically, you have a technical impact. Why? Because this company responsible for real-time payment, they need to be stopped by the central bank in Brazil. Because like this is example a real supply chain attack. Because like probably here in US, works like the same case. Because in Brazil, basically you have a person here, the client, that would like to buy a cryptocurrency. Let's suppose the Bitcoin. You can pay in Brazil in a real-time payment. We call Pix, but here in US we call Zelle. That's right, right? If you don't know, okay, I know that's in US here, but if you're another country, like in Portugal, it's called MBWay. It's another service. If you live in your country, probably another country, you have this similar payment process, but you have another name. But how this working in the technology perspective? You have here the user buy the cryptocurrency. You can pay in real-time process. You can buy by Zelle here in US, or in Brazil, you can buy by Pix. So these companies in the middle, they're responsible for offer this payment process in real time. It's a third-party company. So this is the supply chain involved with that. So this company responsible for offer this API payment, the real-time payment, they need to inform the central bank responsible for, in our case in Brazil. I don't know the name of the central bank here in US responsible for the government payment. Do you know the name? Federal Reserve. So they responsible for regulate all those processes. In Brazil, we have the reserved account for every bank. So let's say the banks in Brazil, they manage all accounts in this reserved account. So this is the flow. So I need to buy here, remember, the Bitcoin. I will pay, okay, in Pix or Zelle. So once I start this flow, I need to inform the Fed here or the central bank in Brazil. They go to this reserved account. In our case in Brazil, this bank has this reserved account, this amount of money. So they return to this flow again, 2-3 companies involved. So this is a kind of chain, is a real supply chain attack. So if you see in US, work is a very similar way when you pay in the real time. If you pay in the credit card, you have another company like a Visa or MasterCard or whatever, or like American Express, but they use another Visa or Master, whatever. So that's the key. Like, you are a young guy here, not too old like me, but in the past when I need to, pay someone or I need to, doing deposit, I need to go to the physical bank. When I go to the physical bank, I put in the envelope, like in the end of the bank close, one person go to the bank, retire your envelope, go to the system, type, okay, this is account of Filipi. They, deposit this amount, they put in the system. Was a person in the past, right? But right now, just paying is very fast. So because of that, it's important to understand those paths here, those chain. Because remember, I'm talking about the business right now. So you need to think about your company, how it works in your company, how many third-party companies is involved with that and this process. Because in the end of the day, you will understand what is this exactly terms works and how is the impact of misconfiguration. Talk about choke points, another term. Basically, this is the converge moment when many or multiple attack paths converge for the same high-value target. Cool. I explain what is high-value target. I explain to you what is attack path, and I explain what is a choke point. I don't understand what is a fucking choke point, Filipi. Just to explain to you. So imagine that you have a high-value target in your company here, like this one guy here. You have many possibilities to go until this high-value target. Many attack paths, many shortest path. Maybe you have one or two shortest path. Who knows here? Who here knows about the Bloodhound? Okay, if you go to Bloodhound, you can click in the shortest path, right? So for the one single add the first person, what is the shortest path until the domain controller, right? So this is the shortest path. You can have the long path or you can have the shortest path. So when you talk about the choke point, basically you can have more than one path to go until the high value target. Here the choke point is the way when you stop the attack. Because if there are a bunch of ways to go to the high value target, there are one way that you can stop it, the attack. Basically, this is the choke point, okay? That is cool. Challenge in the cloud, you know that better than me. So this is the challenge. Many branches comes to the cloud because 76% at least using two. Who here will using more than one cloud providers? Just to, so in this room, we have a more than 76%. Just a statistic here, more than 76 in this room, okay? And 33% comes to the account, you know, compromised, privilege account compromised, okay? That's a lot to manage it. Like this is, I don't know if you know this information, okay? This is a lot of information, but like more than 80,000, you know, permissions in the cloud, AWS, 2,000 in Azure, and 11,000 in GCP. Cool. Something happened here. I was hacked. I'm not talking about virus. I'm talking about cloud. Okay, here we go. Let's, sorry. There we go. Okay. Anyway, let me just stand it and mirror again just to organize this. Not too good? Okay. 1 second. Let me press the bottom once again. But, you know, like, just to... I know that. Okay. Okay. It's many things to manage. That's the simple explanation here. And now talking about the sexy part, okay? So just to explain what is exactly AAM in AWS, it's coming to the service responsible for control, manage every permissions in the AWS. So they will be responsible for connected like a puzzle, okay? Because if you work with cloud, you know how this works. When you talk about virtual environments, in the past, we have like virtual machine, storage, memory, how you manage those virtual machines. In cloud is different. It's like a puzzle. You have, you know, storage, you have a like CPU, ECS, or EC2 instance, you have a storage behind that you need to attach it, is something. And basically, the service responsible for control or integrate those type of things is the IAM service, okay? Here, how you can manage those type of things, you have this is the policies from the AWS. Here you have the statement that is basically responsible for configure the policy. Inside of this statement, you have the effect here, as you can see, that allows you or deny you to access something. And you have the actions here that include a bunch of permissions in the cloud, basically. And of course, resource is another important information. It's best practice to set exactly ARN. It means AWS research name. You should, you know, define each research name that you use in the AWS. The big error here, it uses what here? You know what is the big mistake here? When you set some policies in AWS, the big mistake, using the resource, the asterisks. Like, let's put in the asterisks. But, okay, Filipi, it's not common. It's a fucking common. Take a look at this. So the questions for you guys, because we have a time. Who think this configuration is safe? Who is thinking that's not safe? Who think it's fucking nothing? Cool. We have a bunch of people that are thinking nothing. That's interesting. That's cool. That's, you know, that's true. But like, I like this question because the good answer is, it depends. That's true. Because if you think with me, okay, you need to buy a solution, the CSPM provided, Cloud Security Posture Management, right? You need to buy. What is the best, Filipi? I haven't fucking idea. You need to test whatever solution you want. But they requires to you a user, and the user should have the read-only access. So the right guy requires the right permission. This is the right permission. So it's safe because of the integration of this guy. However, if I ask you, the financial guy needs to have this permission. Of course not. Is the wrong guy. You see? So it depends of the person that received this permission. But if you see, it's not a custom policy. This is standard policy from who? From AWS. So as I explained to you, the effect is allow, and the actions just list every single thing in groups, user, policies, and whatever. But again, so if you go to the AWS website and you need to set some permission there, you go to the standard because it's best practice from the AWS, right? So another question that I have to you, so who here knows or who knows about the framework called AWS Web Architecture? That's fucking cool. No one's cool about that. But basically, this is the guidance recommended from the AWS. So if you work with AWS, you see how the problem is not about the developer. It's about who configured the AWS. Because the frameworks from the AWS, we suggest you the web architecture, how you should implement the web architecture in AWS. But be relaxed, because I always asking this in my talks. And usually, I can see like 5% in the room that know about web architecture. And one of the principles about the web architecture is the least privilege. So that I need to look into each user and each permission. Remember the title of the talk? Dangers of fucking misconfiguration. So if I don't know about the least privilege concept or how I should look into the permissions, I cannot apply this as in my environment. So that's my takes here for you. Okay, let's return into these ideas. Okay, basically it's some ideas that I'd like to bring to you. To get some secrets and tokens at AWS, we need to get this from some place, right? So basically here is the simple code that you can use in your GitHub or GitLab. Just a simple to get some credentials or access key and secret keys from AWS, GCP, OCI, and generic key, whatever. So you can just configure this in your environment, set your token here. You can run it for education purpose, I can say this, okay? And you can run it privately in your environment. To try to figure if some developer, putting this credentials open to the, let's say, private GitHub or private GitLab or even public. It's okay, Filipi, but it's just for the staging, it's the developer environment, it's a stage environment, it's not production. You should try in the production if it works or not. Just an idea. But just to understand how you can get this access. Once you have this information, what is the next steps here? So if you have some access here, it's simple like this. If you don't have any experience, just say to you, just type here AWS AAM, like a service, okay? Can you see my screen? I think you can see my screen. After that, you just type configure, if I'm not wrong. I think that's it. No, it's wrong. The AWS configure, yeah. Configure, no, just what? No, it's not. No, it's a, let me check. AWS, it's a configurer. There are some technical here, just to help me. No, it's a AWS. Oh, that's it. AWS configure. Yeah, because I'm setting the CLI configuration. Sorry, my mistake. I'm just putting AAM because I'm going fast. But this is simple information that requires to you to access the CLI. They requires to you the access key, and the second one is secret. Once you have this information, it's done because the other information is default. Okay, Filipi, but it's just getting access to the US East one. Okay, but I don't know what is the others region. Of course you can know. Just go to the AWS website and ask it to the AWS how many regions they have. Once you have the access key and secrets, just typing and set, not the full region. You can set each one of them just to see what kind of information you have in each region. Makes sense to you guys, right? The second one is another default. The output doesn't care. That's it. Once I have there inside just AWS AAM users, for example, or policy. Let's see users. Not users. It's users. Not users. I know what the command, but if I share with you, you know my users. No, let me return here. It's better. Because here in this case, and I try list users, not users. If I try list users, if you see this print screen or the screenshot, we can see the access denied. Why does this happen? Because the access key and the credentials, or secrets, didn't allow me to access the list of users. So let me return here. Okay, this is the lab, fucking doesn't care. List users. So if you see, I can see many users here, super fast. You see the users here, right? So just to see many users. This is a lab, but it doesn't matter. But just to explain, it's just super easy. So in this case, didn't allow me to list user, list policies, and list group. Why? Because the secret and key, the configurations applied in this user didn't allow me to access these informations. Is that okay? Did you understand? Cool. So after that, I went to the AWS and I created a new policy version. So if you see here, if you don't, it's easy to use it. The AWS, you have like access level, as you can see here. We have a list, read, write, and permission management and tagging is a type of level of configuration you have in AWS. I'm talking just about the AAM, okay? You can set here the permissions using the UI, as I'm showing to you now, or you can use the JSON file, okay? Once I chose here, for example, one single action, I just chose one single action. This action is create policy version, as you can see here, and simple, one action. Can you see here the screen? One single action. I'm just sharing to you the impact of this specifically statement or this policy. I'm just creating a custom policy here, custom, since in the beginning. So if you see, the effect is just allow me, and the action of this only one, create policy. In the research, in this case, I put in more in difficult way here, let's say, because I could use in the asterisk. Remember the first example, EIM read only access is asterisk for everything. In this case, I just put in asterisk in the policy perspective. You see that? It's more difficult for the attacker. Just policy. I'm not putting everything. Just to show you what is the impact. So now let's see what is the impact here. So once I actually, let's suppose that I'm newbie guy, okay? I don't know how I can set something. So I went to the website, whatever, the Google or the ChatGPT, whatever. You can decide what is your new search or new research. So I asked it to the Google in that case, and how I can creating a full access in the cloud in the AWS. So they suggest me this code. Okay, I copy and paste, as you can see here, and I call the attacker exploitation JSON here file. And if you see, they will allow me to access the whole AAM. Remember those bunch of level like read, write, permission management, tags, whatever. But here they suggest me the organization. I don't have what does that mean, organization. So if you don't know, and when you talk about AWS and GCP and other providers, you have two different layers to manage it. One is the organization level. Let's suppose your company has organization, and you can have more than one account behind of this organization level. So maybe if you're part of the big group, let's suppose that your company has a group called whatever, GC. I create now the name. And behind of this group, we have 4 companies. So usually for the architecture perspective, you have one organization level for the group. And behind of this group, you have each account for each group. So when you copy and paste this code, you give the access to the organization level. Okay, just to clarify this. Because after that, I went to the Google again and asked to Google how I can set a new create policy version using CLI, using command line interface. And they suggest me this command, AWS, create policy version, setting the AWS research name, the name of the policy that I created, and they need to set the policy document. If you see here, the name of the document, attack exploitation JSON. And if you see here this tag in the, not tag, but this parameter here set as a default, When I type here, it works. So I was here in this level. Remember this level? This is the policy that I created, right? And here I was in the account level, one single account level. Once I elevate the privilege here, now I am in the organization level. Now I can see all accounts behind of this organization. It's not a 0-day. It's just one single action. They impacted one single action. You see that? So now we have a list of users. It's interesting because I blocked this information here. I hid the information, but I showed the information to you. It's a lab. Doesn't care. Okay? So that's the impact here. So, okay. So how I can, organize that, how I can deal with that. So there are a bunch of open source tools and free tools that I can share with you. I'm just sharing some tools to help you. One of these is Cartography. Okay? Cartography, like this one here. As the open source tool, you can use in your environment, you can test. They support in these different, let's say, connectors, because in the end of the day, you need to connect using APIs to go to the AWS or to go to the GCP, as you can see here, or other platforms, and you need to collect those identities. And usually, this type of tools requires to you the access, the read-only access, the first policy that I show you, remember that I asked you if they're safe or not, requires to you these permissions. Why? Because you need to integrate with that, and they need to bring it to you, these users, with the right permissions to bring you those informations. Once you have this, you can go to the, let's say, the tool, and you need to understand more about Cypher queries. When you understand the Cypher queries here, of course, you need to understand more about the Neo4j database, or maybe if you are familiar with the Neo4j database or main graphs, you can set some commands you can see here in the GraphWay. This is one tool. Another tool is Cartography, is AWSPX, is another tool that I can share with you. This is super interesting because they can bring you these informations in the same way. Like this one here. I have my lab here. So they will work in the same way here. Below you can see it's small, okay, but you need to understand more about Cypher query, how each Cypher query works. We'll have 10 minutes. That's cool. Thank you, sir. You're a super guy. And but basically here you can see how this graphical works. For example, if I click here in CFO, you can click here in the right bottom. You can see, for example, the embody actions. You can see how many actions you see here in this environment, for example. So the question is, why this blessed CFO is a part of the administrator access group? Just because he pay our salary? But they have an access here. What that means in this case? So based on these configurations here and this, actually he's a part of the administrator group and they are part of this administrator access here. And if you see, there are 49 actions. So let's see how many actions we have here. So let's take a look about this specifically actions. We can choose whatever you want here and to choose what is the more dangerous actions. Remember, inside of one single permission, we have a bunch of action. I just show you the impact about one action. So let's see, for example, this one here, the attach user policy. What that means? That I can de-attach one specific policy. Let me explain the impact of this attach user policy. So let's suppose that you get the credentials, secrets, and access. And you run this command here that I show you. Okay, you type this command here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you again. Oh, it's here. You type here the configure, for example. You type here, you go inside, okay? And after that, you go to AWS EAM list policy, for example. List policies. So once you type here, you will see all policies you have with your environment. So there are a bunch of policies. So take a look at this one here. This is a, let's say, this is a custom policy. Okay, let's suppose, okay, this user just have attach policy, attach demo, and demo lab. 2 custom policies, not to danger. However, maybe you found one of these users that has the attach user policy. What that means? These single actions allow you to attach a new user policy. Okay, Filipi, can be danger or not? We know, you know, I know that AWS has one single administration access standard policy. You can go to the AWS website. You can see this standard there. And if you see that is there, you just can attach a new one. Simple like this. Just because one single actions set it wrong. You see what is the impact? You don't need to know, because when you go to the AWS, you need to configure the EC2 instance, right? So if you're not familiar with that, you go to the AWS and they suggest to you the proper EC2 policy standard from who? From AWS. But you need to check all actions that are inside of this specifically policy because it's a standard from AWS. Okay, Filipi, you are telling me that I should custom all those policies in my environment? Yes. But is it too much? I will have a problem with that. Is it too much? Yeah. Welcome to our life. We need to work with that. That's okay. I could use in the, let's say, the standard. Yeah, but if something wrong happened, good luck, sir. You need to have more, work to do. Basically, this is another tool. Let's say, okay, so how Segura works with that, how my company works, how I can help with the community. We created this program we call Build With Us. Basically, is the way that you can use in the same similar tools, but in this case, you don't need to know about Neo4j, don't need to know about Cypher Query, because you just integrate with your environment. Once you integrate with that, we have the community version, as I will show you here, for example, in my environment. Once you have this, integrate with that. I'm using my private email, by the way, one of my private emails, by the way. Once you register that, you can use it for like educations if you want, for master, whatever. If you see here in my console, is in sandbox mode. So when you receive the access, you'll be there. You have this kind of mock. You can see how the tool works. Once you disable that, you can use in your proper environment. And you see here in this right side, the left side here. Let me just disable. It's not here. It's another part here. But you can disable here. Let's see. It's not working my internet here. Okay, leave this in box mode. Let's see if working right now. And yeah, it's works right now. So if you see here, basically is the community. So you can integrate with our environment. They just bring it to you, the identities here, and you can see how this works in this specifically perspective that I mentioned with you here. You can see the recommendations, you can see the access path here, and many different ways. So how this works in the access path perspective, as you can see here. And you don't need to know about like the Cypher Query. Let me just enable the sandbox mode just to finalize here. And another thing that you have in the future, let's say, is about the the AI integrations. When you have integrations, you have here the get insights of the the AI. They will bring it to you some insights about your environment. So if you have a 5 minutes, like me, that I have just 5 minutes to talk, so how I can go and fix those type of things. Another thing that we have is the attack path here, as I showed to you. Getting attached policy, go to here, and you can see here the attack path perspective. You can see what is the requirements. You can see how many users you have behind of this attack path that you need to fix. And machine identity comes the same way here. You can integrate the different ways, and you have, again, the possibilities to integrate many different things. Another tool just to share with you is a SecBridge. It's an open source. In this case, this tool is for a Brazilian guy. It's not exactly in the graph way, but here's more the offensive perspective. They organizing the 2 different tools like a prowler. This is like a CSPM. cloud security posture management. And Paku is more offensive perspective to explore cloud environments. When you have this integrated, you can have this for more details, more information. But this tool specifically not exactly for the, let's say, Graphways. I think that's it. Another tool that I would like to share, because last year they asked me about that, is this specifically tool, is the Starbase. This tool is not exactly for the security perspectives, even they call security analysis here, but basically here is the collector, okay? It's a big source of collector. You can integrate many, more than 100, 100 open source graphs integrations that support you. We can integrate with that, and you can manage that type of things. And this is just a print screen that I showed, and I finish here. Wow, that's cool. If you have questions, I think we have like 45 seconds. No, I'm kidding. Take some time. We are finished. Yeah, I think we. Oh yeah, we have more 30 minutes. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Okay. Question on this side.
Sir, please, not difficult question, okay? So be kind. Be kind. Be kind.
Okay, so I spend a lot of time looking at same types of graphs from all different kinds of systems, right? I have a list of people and all the access that they have, and I'm going through and I'm identifying risky stuff, right? So I'm with you there. The problem that I run into is I'm looking at a list for some person I don't know what their job is, I don't know what their role is, it's a service account, whatever, but I see the risk. So if I just go bother somebody and say, hey, here's a bunch of risky stuff that you're allowed to do, please tell me whether or not you actually do this as part of your job. They either have no idea what I'm talking about, or they tell me, yes, I do. I actually do all of that. Leave all of these permissions with me, right? So, and that's not good enough for me. So I usually try to grab logs, from the past like 30, 60 days or whatever, and overlay it to say, here's what you have, right? Here's what you actually used. I want to take away everything that you clearly are not using unless you flag it and say, that's a break glass permission. I need that. Do you have recommendations on tools or frameworks or whatever to make that easy, to overlay the actual used data?
So that's an interesting question, because here you can see, for example, the integration with these tools. Again, this is a community version. And actually, we have another enterprise version, but for now it's free. So everything is free because I'm the owner of the project. So I'm not the owner of the company, but I'm the owner of the project. So it's free. But anyway, you can see here, never use it here. So this is one way that you can show with the user.
Yep, that is exactly. I need this for every system under the sun.
Yeah,
not just AWS.
Like,
right?
man, it's completely. So they just using 35 services in AWS. So why you have more 30? 300
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
permissions.
On my Android phone, right, it reminds me every 30 days, hey, I'm taking away permissions on apps that you haven't used. Why doesn't AWS do that, right? Like,
yeah. So, but the point is, if you don't have a visibility, because you need to go to the AWS, you go to the 30 days,
It's a whole exercise. I have to pay people to do this, or spend like weeks doing it myself.
You know that,
like ISO audits.
But for the GCP perspective, in this same tool, because this tool is created by customers.
Yeah.
That's we put in Brazil, we put in US. So many companies are using these tools. And one of the features that we have for the GCP, for example, is because GCP is based on the rule of the users. And one of the things that we received from this specific company in Brazil, they ask us, okay, I would like to see the vision about every user that don't have any, permissions applied to these users. So because sometimes they have some permissions, but now they don't have any privilege account attached to them.
Oh, like if they get their just-in-time access.
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
do, yeah.
So that's the key. So if you don't have visibility, how we can fix this? So basically, the challenge is, so we need to figure what is the right tool for my right environment. So we can use this for free again. So that's one
Excellent.
way
Thank
that
you.
we can use. You have a question.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. You didn't speak at all about agents. When it comes to agents and their identity, which all new notion that is just thrown into this complicated system, and this, how does it affect the threat landscape and the applicability of these graph analysis?
Good questions. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I can talk in two different ways here. One is about how the different tools is integrated in different environments. They use an API integrations. So I think your question is more about agent AI. Is that correct?
Yeah, agentic AI.
Agentic AI, perfect. So this is one of the topics very common that I was in the Identiverse a few months ago. It's here, by the way, in Vegas. So I think many companies are creating or starting some research. My company, for example, they are creating now the integration with agentic AI because many companies are using, for example, to buy something like, because the agent AI, they requires many privileged access, different permissions. So talking about the threat landscape, so once you get the access to the agent AI, you have the whole permissions behind, above this agent AI. And that's the big challenge for the identity companies because they need to manage how as this permission this agent AI has, for example, to buy something in different websites, for example. And in my case, for example, I doing some research, but my developer team are creating the solution to that. And that's the key. And by the way, and this year, I think 2 months ago or 3 months ago, don't remember exactly, the Identiverse event here that Vegas that are a specific event for the identity. So I saw 4 or 5 companies developing the agent AI for the security perspective. But in talk about the landscape, actually, many companies are using this mainly for buying things or for automated things because they will, understand how let me bring it real example here. Let's suppose that your company is responsible for buying, it's a e-commerce. So they need to buy, for example, they need to figure what is the best Nike tennis shoes more cheaper. So they go to the Amazon, they go to whatever website that you have. Once they go to different websites, they will choose what is the more lowest pricing, and based on this lowest price, they will buy this Nike tennis shoes. So the point is, so to buy this, they need to have a permissions for paying something, like they need to have the credit card associated with that. They need to have permissions to buy this product. It depends on the website. They need to be the research. They need to have a registration. So everything is about identity. So we should manage this. Actually, the identity companies is not prepared for that yet. But some companies are doing research and other companies are creating products for that.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate. Good questions.
Okay, one
Last
more over
last
here.
one.
Last one over there.
But not least. Last one.
So the question that I have is built on this.
Yeah,
They-
just get the mic so it'll be on the recording.
So the question I have builds on his because you were mentioning how just-in-time access would have helped the financial institute that
Yeah.
had the hack. Well, with one of the big things that they're selling with agentic AI is it's 24/7. So how does that work with just-in-time access? And I mean, it's one of those where I'm going, it seems like one of the tools for trying to prevent these hacks is actually being destroyed by this 24/7 because the purchaser,
Yeah.
agentic AI, there might be better prices at 2 a.m. versus at 8 a.m.
Yeah, but that's interesting because in this case, we should look into another feature talking about identities, calling, for example, user behavior, or like we should associate it like behavior process. Let's say tentative of payments in 2 a.m. and or like tentative of payment in 30 seconds or 10 seconds every time. So probably someone get inside of the agent AI, they try to buy different product in one single short time. So this is, or for the different locations, geolocations. So we can use like, okay, just-in-time access is another way to protect, but like the concept of the agent AI is about 24 hours, or let's say 24/7, you know what I mean? So that's the key. So we need to using another type of, ways to protect. That's, I'm telling about the research about agent AI, because many companies are putting this to automated process. It's a super nice for the security perspective and the offensive perspective guys as well. Because again, so they are using some concepts to creating this technology, but in this case, in my perspective, to protect is based on behavior, should be the behavior. Because, okay, the attack that happened in Brazil is based on, and we should block it to the just-in-time. Another way to block it, it's about behavior. Because the access that the criminals has is based on the insider. So was the user, the employee access. So if they had the behavior analysis about the payment process, they should revoke these credentials. Once they revoke this credential, they will block it. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Filipi.
Appreciate it. Guys, thank you so much for being here until now. Have a good, amazing night.
Thanks, everyone. And that's the end of the PasswordsCon track for today. Have a good afternoon or evening, I should say.